Hello everyone, my name's Joe, I'm here at Riverside BBQ School. Today in America it's National Brisket Day and National Burger Day. Personally I think they should get a day each, but there you go. So I've been cooking up some brisket on the Traeger Timberline 850. I used a Weber kettle to make some nice bacon cheeseburgers. There's one quite solid normal bacon cheeseburger and then one with a little twist. So hold tight for both of those. Right, I have got this lovely brisket from Hixson's. I've had a trim up. They come pretty nicely trimmed anyway. What you want to do is just get rid of any kind of hard bits of fat, anything that means the brisket's not streamlined. So you can see there's nothing kind of hanging off because that will just shrivel up, dry out, possibly burn. What I'm going to do, hit it with some cold pressed rapeseed oil just as a little binder. This does nothing for the flavour. You can use mustard, you can use Worcestershire sauce. Don't use anything with too high of a sugar content because, again, that may well burn eventually. Just a little bit of this so that the rub sticks. And there's a handy trick I picked up from Aaron Franklin on YouTube, the godfather of modern brisket cooking, I should say. Plenty of greats before him, but he kind of brought it to the world. If you keep one gloved hand and one clean hand, then you've got the clean hand that can pick up all of your stuff. Obviously, make sure that you've taken a little preserver film off your rub before you get your hands dirty. What you will find with your brisket, you could stand there all day trimming this, and as I have just done, you find bits, as you get hands on, you'll find little bits hanging off. Don't get too hung up on it. If there's anything that once it's cooked you feel like won't make for good eating, you can just get rid of it then. Try and do as much of it while it's raw as possible, but you'll be able to feel when you get hands on. So I've got the Plowboys Barbecue Bovine Bold. It's a great rub for this kind of thing. You can be fairly liberal with this because it's a big piece of meat. Anything like steaks or chicken, you need to be a little bit more conservative just because the ratio of surface to internal is different. But with something like a brisket or a pork shoulder, Boston butt, you can get a pretty decent layer on there without overpowering the flavour of the beef. Ultimately, when you've got really good ingredients like this, what you're after is tasting the meat that you've spent your hard-earned cash on. Cover this all sides. Obviously, it's a flat piece of meat, so it's easy to cover one side and then the other. If you don't have the luxury of Gastronorm pans, as we do, then you might have a little bit of a clean-up job in your kitchen. As it happens, I've spilled this everywhere, so Francis and I are going to have a clean-up job later. And you just want to pick up all of the edges. You can see there. Make sure everything's nice and covered. If you do find that you've got any crevices, try not to put too much rub in them because it might get covered by another piece of meat, and what will happen is you might get a pool of liquid. It won't you won't develop bark, and you'll just end up with a little puddle of moist rub, which doesn't taste great, I have to say. So I'm pretty happy with this. I'm happy that all sides are covered. I mean, it looks great. So we'll leave that to kind of just sit for a little while. The rub's going to tack up as the moisture comes out of the meat, and catch you in a bit. We're going to cook on the Traeger Timberline 850 today. At the moment I've got it set to 105 degrees Celsius. Up to that point you can use a thing called super smoke, and basically that just means that you get more smoke out of the pellets that it's burning. Later on we'll turn the temperature up, but for now what we want to do is start developing a nice bark, get some smoke in, going to get this big boy on. If you need, use 2 gloves, use 2 hands. They get pretty heavy. All I'm going to do is close the lid, let it sit there for a bit. We'll come back, we'll start spritzing probably in about half an hour, 45 minutes. So I'll see you then. Just a word on rubs. I've played with making my own rubs and I still do it from time to time. Frankly, a lot of the time I don't have the energy for it. I like to just trust the expertise of the guys who've put so much R&D into getting the best flavour profiles. It really pairs nicely with the meat that it recommends. You can find some unusual pairings, you know, rubs that say that they're great for pork, might go really nicely with beef or chicken. So use what's available to you. You can use it as a springboard, develop your own, but we tend to use these just because they're great as they are, and it makes for an easy life, and who doesn't like that? The brisket's been in for about 45 minutes. The great thing about the Traeger is you can just set it and forget it. So I put it in a while ago and walked away, and it's been holding temp ever since. So we'll have a look at the brisket, we'll give it a spritz. I've got some ginger ale in a spray bottle here. You can use anything you like. I love using Guinness, lager, beef stock, Coca-Cola. Ginger ale I've actually never used before, so this is a new one on me, and we'll kind of try it at the end, see how it goes. I should think it'll be delicious. So, I'll open this up. Just coat it. As far as flavour goes, you're not going to get a huge amount from the ginger ale itself. We do this because smoke adheres really nicely to moisture, and of course, ultimately it will contribute to a slightly moister end product in terms of the meat. Hold tight, see you in a bit. We have got some lovely marrow burgers from Tom Hixson. So the beef is minced up, and then along with that there's a little bit of bone marrow in there. It's great flavour. It you know, works the same as fat, so it will render down and contribute a load of moisture and a load of flavour to the burger. I'm just going to hit it with some salt. I'm not going to pepper them yet. We're going to sear them over a high heat, and we don't want to run the risk of the pepper burning, so we'll pepper them afterwards. So what I've done is squash these burgers down a little bit. I prefer a thinner patty. Some people like them thick, that's absolutely fine, leave them as they are. One of the reasons that I do this, as burgers cook, well, as anything cooks, it can shrink a little bit. With burgers you tend to find that they rise up in the middle, and with some burgers sometimes you end up almost with a meatball in a bun. With these, I've made the diameter wider than the bun, so as they cook and shrink a little bit, eventually the diameter will end up pretty much exactly the same as the bun, and then every mouthful is consistent. So, let's get cooking. I've got the Weber kettle preheated, and I've toasted off my bun, and a little surprise. I've got some bacon from the ginger pig that's cooked off, so all that remains is to cook our burgers. And I've got a direct cooking area in the middle. Got the charcoal basket set up just with some nice lumpwood charcoal. And what you will find, the fat content and the marrow content in the burgers will start to render out and drip down. You may get flare-ups. It's probably going to go a little wild with fire. You can see it's starting to smoke already. As the fat drips down, that will happen. So what we'll do is just sear off the outside, and if we're not up to an internal temperature that we want, just move them indirect, leave the lid on, roast them through, and then we're good to go. Right, time to construct. I put the cheese on the burger and stuck the lid on, that melted off. Because the patties are quite thin, they cook through without really having to cook indirect. Going to use this stuff. If you haven't tried it, I implore you to go out and get some. It's the Stokes Bloody Mary ketchup. Nothing like it. It's unbelievable. So what I'm going to do is get just a tiny bit, or not such a tiny bit. Thank you, Francis. I forgot the gherkins. So, top and bottom. And I'm going to grab my burger, stick it on the bottom. I've got some bacon here that we did on the barbecue. Chop that in half. Grab your jar of gherkins. Obviously you can choose which ingredients you put in your own burger. We like to keep it pretty simple here. I'm just going to crack some pepper over that, put the top on, and that's done. Right, so we've got this, what you might call a pretty bog standard cheese and bacon burger here, in an ordinary bun. However, you can be in charge of what goes in your burger, but you can also be in charge of what goes around your burger. So, seen a few people on Instagram doing this, never tried it myself, so this is a first. Francis is excited to try it, I'm really excited to try it. We've got a Krispy Kreme that's just been cut in half, and then the open side just toasted off a little bit. If I try and put ketchup on that, it's just going to go through the hole in the middle, so what I'm going to do is get the burger on first. Little bit of ketchup. And obviously some bacon going in there. Don't know if gherkins might be a bit weird in this, but we're going to try it. A little bit of sweet, a little bit of sour. Definitely some salty. Same deal, 3 gherkins. I like consistent mouthfuls with burgers. I don't understand why people just put one in the middle and then you only get one bite with gherkin. I like it, where you've got gherkins everywhere. And then the other half of the donut on top. So, what you get in each mouthful is lovely, soft, toasted bun, loads of flavour in the burger. The marrow burgers from Hixson's are really, really good. Loads of moisture. Beautiful salty bacon from the Ginger Pig. Some nice gherkins. And then that Bloody Mary ketchup from Stokes. I reckon that burger's pretty tough to beat. Not that we don't love a normal burger. However, I'm very keen to tuck into this. So, that does not look half bad. I'll ready myself with a napkin for this mouthful. Cheers. Oh my god. There is a lot happening with that. So like the other burger, you've got really savoury, beefy flavour from the burger, salty bacon, sour gherkins, like tangy ketchup, and then a massive hit of sugar from the Krispy Kreme. It's completely mad, and I will absolutely do it again. I reckon what would be really good fun if you're having a barbecue or something with a few friends, just buy a few Krispy Kremes just to try it. Not sure I could eat a whole one. I'm quite glad to have cut this one in half, and I'm glad that I'm going to be sharing it. But absolutely going in for a second bite. It's so mad. Right, we're 4 hours into this. The brisket has literally just come off. It's a tough boy at the moment. I've just probed it. Pretty hard to get the probe in. So what we're going to do is something called the Texas Crunch. We are trying to get this to a certain point of tenderness, and in wrapping it in foil, what that allows you to do is keep all of the heat in, and it almost kind of steams itself. So I'm happy with the colour that we've got. There's this slightly alarming protrusion, but you get that on everything. On some it's bigger than others. As it cooks, it should kind of soften and just calm down a little bit. It's all going to be good eating. So I've got my spray bottle of ginger ale here. Got 2 layers of tin foil. Just going to give the first layer a spritz and put this brisket on top. Give the top of the brisket a little spritzy. When I first checked this and started spritzing, I turned the temperature of the Traeger up from 105, where it was sitting with the super smoke setting. I turned it up to 160. If we left it at 105, you're looking at probably a minimum 12-hour cook for a brisket. Where you turn the temperature up, we could be looking at maybe 6 hours, 7 hours. When we get to tenderness. So I've got this wrapped up in that first layer of foil. And turn it round. And give it a roll. If you don't necessarily have the luxury of space, find your own way of wrapping. We're lucky here. Got plenty of stainless steel prep surfaces. One thing to be careful of is to make sure that you have got no air gaps. Make sure that the foil is super tight to the brisket, otherwise you'll get pockets of steam, and any bark that you may maintain while you're wrapped up will just get completely destroyed by the little pockets of steam. So you want to make sure that it's really nice and tight to the brisket. Let's go get it back on. So, in you go, be good. So, as I mentioned at the top of the video, this is a BBQ School. If you want to learn more about the kinds of things that we've been doing today, plus loads more, just click the link in the description box down below. You'll get taken to the events page where you can get dates and details for all of our courses. We're fully covered and heated, so any weather that we get, we're more than prepared for. There's a bar with loads of refreshments, and you will get fed a lot of food and learn how to cook it. Finally, we're going to be releasing more and more videos like this, hopefully, so if you want to be first in the know, just click the subscribe button. Can't remember where it is in relation to me now, but find that, click it, and then you'll get notified anytime a new video comes out. Thank you. Well, it's been approximately 6.5 hours. The brisket has come out, had a little rest, not as long as we would have hoped, because we're running out of time, frankly. I, with the luxury of time, would normally rest mine for 3 or 4 hours. This, sadly, only got half an hour. Still going to be good. So I'm going to cut into it. We'll taste some, and then later on I'll put a little bit on a burger and we'll taste that too. Nice smoke ring. That's the super smoke function on the Traeger for you. So, nice bend, and it just pulls apart under its own weight. That's perfect. Really nicely cooked. Right, what more do you want? I couldn't ask for more. Really good. Come try some.
Okay.
Okay, finally. The two elements of today have come together. This may not come as a surprise. It's National Brisket Day and National Burger Day on the same day. What are we going to do? The one on my left, your right, is the one I think you should probably serve up to your friends, family, loved ones, associates, party attendees. Much more practical to eat. The one on my right, your left, is the one that looks good on the internet, and let's be honest, that's why any of us does anything these days. I'm going to try this one because it's going to be easier to eat. So it's exactly the same burger as earlier on, just with the addition of some sliced brisket. In we go. It's delicious. What do you expect? The thing is, some people might say you lose the brisket or you lose the burger, it's not the best way of doing things, but I think because the brisket is so nice and beefy, all it does is just ramp up that element of the flavour. You could probably afford to go heavier on other things, maybe double cheese. I have got double sauce in here. I think you're adding another element of beef. It's a bit like a double burger. It's very good. Highly suggest you give it a go. Cheers.